skipped him this week too, but then last Thursday, Sean Marks pulls off a pre-draft trade for the third year in a row, getting Alan Crabb's contract off the books, along with the number 17 pick in this year's draft, a lottery-protected 2020 first-round pick for Taurean Prince, and a 2021 second-rounder. Now, this is big news because obviously the Nets are going big game hunting this summer, and they would like to pair Kyrie Irving and Kevin Durant. I just saw a tweet a few minutes ago from our buddy Anthony Puccio saying he is told by a source that Kevin Durant's injury will not affect Brooklyn's pursuit of him. So there you have it. The Nets will be full steam ahead trying to pair Kevin Durant and most likely Kyrie Irving. I don't want to get into the Irving Nets hype. I mean, it's been covered everywhere. But I want to applaud Sean Marks for this trade because I think it's a great trade. And I know you and I disagree on this, so I want to get your take a little bit. You're a little lukewarm on this deal because the counter argument against the Nets was, well, Sean Marks signed Alan Crabb to that poison pill contract anyway, so he gave up 2 first-round picks to get rid of it. Here's what I say about that. Taurean Prince is an underrated player, averaged 13.5 points last year, essentially replacing DeMarre Carroll in Kenny Atkinson's rotation. He's got a $3.5 million salary. So the Nets are saving the $18 million in Crabb's contract, plus the salary that would have paid the 17th pick. And they have 2 max contract slots. Now, I'm interested to see how this plays out with D'Angelo Russell, because I think if they just let Russell go, that's kind of going against the culture and the development that they preach. But right now, I just want to focus on how good of a job Sean Marks has done, because he's able to get that Crabb contract off the books before the draft, before free agency, even though the trade cannot become official until July 6th. But he's able to get Brooklyn in the door with these top-tier players. Okay, Kyrie Irving probably going to take a meeting. I don't know what to think about Kevin Durant right now if they'll consider Brooklyn. Stephen A. Smith, Ben, reported that Kyrie was flying to the Bay Area to try and convince Kevin Durant to join him in Brooklyn. So the Nets are in the conversation. That's all I can ask for. And they've solidified a seat at the table by getting Alan Crabb's contract off the books. So kudos to Sean Marks on another solid deal. But, Ben, I want to get your take on this.
So I have a few issues with this trade. You touched on one of them. I hated the fact that the Nets gave up 2 first-round picks to get off of a player they just traded for. Obviously, Mark signs him to the deal. Frankly, they get very lucky. Portland matches for some unknown reason. Apparently, that Microsoft money out there is strong. But at any rate, they match the deal in Portland. And then the Nets end up trading one bad contract for a terrible contract in Crabb. He had some signs, but ultimately they have to give up 2 first-round picks. That felt steep for me. But to me, the kicker was they could have traded, say, the worst of their picks, which is the pick that they got for taking on Kenneth Faried and
wouldn't have been enough.
That Flotsam deal.
Wouldn't have been enough.
It's just hard for me to stomach giving up 2 first-round picks, especially when there are some big fish out there, Jason. I mean, I just felt like.
But in order to get the big fish, they needed to get rid of Crabb's contract, and this draft
make that trade right now, though.
This draft is not that deep. Okay, who are they going to get at 17 that was going to help the Nets contend? I mean, this draft is very top-heavy. After the lottery, it's all a crapshoot. They can still package. If they're going after Irving and Russell, trying to get Russell back, they could package Dinwiddie, 27 and 31, and move up into the lottery if there's a guy they really like. I mean, Sean Marks still has flexibility, and this is why I love Sean Marks, because Billy King would not have done this. Next year's pick is lottery protected. Neither of these 2 first-round picks will be high. They're losing number 17, and if the Nets are a playoff team again next year, it's going to be 15 or worse. So it's not like they're losing a lottery pick here, Ben.
I get that, but when you look at these teams, you have to use those picks to replenish, and you have to use those picks and get good players. It's still the best way to get good talent onto your team is the draft. The teams that are consistently successful, they do it through the draft. And it was a little disappointing to me to see the Nets so quickly trade those picks. And I just felt like, to be honest with you, Jason, I felt like they overpaid a little for what they're getting off of. Now, I don't mind Prince. I'm just not sure how good he is. I've seen him play.
He's a system fit.
And I mean,
he's a younger DeMarre Carroll. I'm not saying he's going to be an all-star, but the fact that he averaged 13.5 points for a Hawks team that was better than people were expecting them to be, okay, he's got the size. He could be the stretch four off the bench that Brooklyn needs. He could start if need be. He's a perfect system fit for Kenny Atkinson. He can defend. He can shoot. He's just going to be a rotational piece. I mean, if you go into the season right now with a front court of Jared Allen and Taurean Prince, it's a good start. They need a lot more depth on the wings and with the bigs, but it's a start.
He'll have to be a starter for them to win this trade. And then, to me, there was two kind of more long-term parts of this that I didn't like. The first was that this trade would have been there a week later. There's no way that the Hawks are making any sort of move, and there's other teams that would be happy to take 2 first-round picks for them to get off Crabbe, and you could get a guy like a Prince who's probably a starter level player, a lower level starter. I think that trade was there, and the other piece to me here, Jason, is that Prince has already played a few seasons. So the thing that the Nets, I feel like, are going to end up getting themselves into trouble with is that they're going to have to pay Prince. It's not as if, this is a guy who's on a first or second year of his deal. He's played 3 years already, which means that they're going to have to pay him. And so to me, that's where it gets a little head scratching, is that they're really largely, if things go according to plan, they're not going to really have the space to pay Prince. So that's where I think they get themselves into a little bit of trouble because, ultimately, let's say you're right. He's a good fit for this team. That'll be great, and they'll take that win, but then they're going to be stuck because then they don't really have the money to pay him. And that's where I think this trade, to me, felt a little short-sighted, was I thought they could have waited a week, wait till draft night, see if anything materializes. You said, hey, that Denver pick won't get it done. But you know what? Maybe you hold out and you say, hey, you know what? We'll give you this year's pick and the Denver pick. We'll give you those 2 picks, or we'll give you next year's pick, lottery protected, and this year's Denver pick, but we're going to hold on to ours. I feel like it was a little rushed. They could have held out, tried to get a little bit better of a deal, and then avoid also, with this situation where I feel like they're going to end up having to pay Prince after next year if he plays well. So if he plays poorly, then they kind of got nothing out of the trade. If he plays well, then are they going to really give him a $15 million deal in 2020 to be a starter? No. I can't see that. So to me, I'm just not sure what he gets them. And I mean, on the reverse side of this, I love the trade for the Hawks. I thought they traded, probably their 4th best player on a lottery team that's going nowhere, and they end up with 2 first-round picks. I mean, ultimately, I thought that was a great trade for them. I really liked 3 of their guys, and I didn't see Prince as a long-term piece for them. I thought Herter, Collins, and Young are the 3 guys for them. So I actually really like the trade from their side. For the Nets, it's not that I hate it. I'd give it, a C+ or something like that. But I just think it was a little short-sighted. They could have waited and tried to get a better deal. And worst case, make the trade when you know that guy's coming. If you know you're getting the second free agent, then make the trade. You don't need to make it right now. Hold out, kind of get your leverage, and hold on to those first-round picks in case Davis comes around and says, hey, I heard you got Kyrie Irving. I want to come to Brooklyn. There's always the possibility that he just says, hey, I want to be a Net, and then all of a sudden the Nets are on the inside track. And then they might regret not having those first-round picks to trade for him. So to me, that's where I have a little bit of trouble with this deal, is I just felt like they didn't need to make the move right now, Jason. So I agree with you. There's some positives, but I thought it was maybe a little bit rushed from the Nets' perspective.
Okay, that I will give you, because I know that the commissioner's office usually frowns upon deals that are made during the NBA Finals. Sean Marks did not care. He didn't do it on the day of the game. Actually, he did do it on the day of the game. No, he didn't do it on the day of the game. It was in between games 3 and games 4. I'm sorry. We're running late here, and I'm tired. But so that part I will give you, it could have waited. But this is a rental, okay? Prince could be a restricted free agent in 2020. He's making $3.5 million, which is definitely worth paying more than, would be paying a 21-year-old kid with the 17th pick or keeping Crabbe on the books. The only way this will be a huge loss for Brooklyn, because I do agree it was a great trade for Atlanta, is if the Nets strike out in free agency, then what? They traded for 2 first-round picks, albeit they're not lottery, so Sean Marks is not Billy King. But if they strike out, they basically just paid the price of 2 first-round picks in order to have salary cap space. Now, if they don't get anybody in free agency, they can use that space to reacquire assets if it's a guy on a 1-year deal, and let's say KD opts in and just does his player option 1-year deal, and then Davis gets traded and doesn't get re-signed, and then you have Davis and Durant headlining the free agency class next summer. Okay, then we're talking. Because before we end the show, I just want to say this about Anthony Davis. There are rumors that the Nets are one of the teams in talks with the Pelicans. If I'm Brooklyn, why the hell am I giving up Caris LeVert, Jared Allen, more picks, maybe a sign and trade with Russell, just for a 1-year rental for Davis when the Knicks and the Lakers are at the top of his list? So if I'm Brooklyn, do not trade the farm for Anthony Davis. I know we're going to hear that name a lot. There's a big likelihood that he will be dealt in the next 8 days before the draft. So, definitely stay tuned for that. Maybe we'll have an update before next week's show. But if I'm Brooklyn, do not trade the farm for Davis.
I'm going to be honest. I slightly disagree with you, as you probably know. I like the idea of a Russell sign and trade with like Russell, Allen, maybe Karooks and a first round pick or two.
For what? Davis. Anthony Davis is always hurt.
If he says he'll stay in Brooklyn,
no.
If he says he'll stay and you have LeVert,
play with Davis, not traded for Davis. No, I would be furious because, as great as Irving and Davis are, and now Durant, all these guys have had major injury concerns. If you're the Nets, keep building with what you have. That's why I think if the Nets do get Kyrie Irving and let Russell go, I'm going to be upset. Kyrie Irving's a great player, don't get me wrong, but it's going to take me a while to warm up to this. And as a Nets fan, I never thought I'd say that. But for Brooklyn, before I have palpitations heading into the end of this podcast, it's all about flexibility heading into the draft of free agency. And even though Mark's dealt 2 first-round picks, he's still got the flexibility. You got Dinwiddie's very reasonable contract. You have the 27th and 31st picks. They could find diamonds in the rough in those spots. I trust Brooklyn's scouting department. They have flexibility, they have options, and now they have cap space.
And let me finish with one last thing. I mean, there have been a lot of reports that Brooklyn is comfortable pairing Irving with Russell, which I'm going to be honest with you. I want to hear your thoughts, but I just don't see any way that pairing works, especially when they have LeVert and Dinwiddie in the wings. Like I don't see how you could keep both of those guys.
I don't agree. I don't agree with that. I agree with you because like everyone's saying the Nets have guards. They need wing help. They need big men. If they stay put and re-sign D'Angelo Russell, right? Give him his money. Mm-hmm. And then you put Tobias Harris next to Jared Allen in the front court and then use that cap money to bring in another stretch 4, bring in another wing. Like, okay, I'm just going to say this. If you put Harris and Jimmy Butler on the Nets next to Russell, LeVert, and Allen, they would be better than the Sixers were this year because Russell could shoot unlike Ben Simmons. I know Embiid is so much better than Jared Allen, but Allen's 21 years old.
I agree with you. I completely agree.
Guys, use the money elsewhere. I'd be fine with Jimmy Buckets. I think Tobias Harris would be a great fit. He knows Kenny Atkinson. So Sean Marks is not going to be stupid with this cap space. He's doing his due diligence. The Nets are going big game hunting. But I think they're just saying that about Russell and Irving just to keep Russell happy and just to say, listen, we didn't forget about you. I know there's real hype around Kyrie, but we love you and we think we can make it both work. It's not going to happen. I just think Russell's in that second tier of free agents, Ben, too. That's the thing you have to think about. So Russell's going to have to wait for Durant, Kawhi, Clay, all these guys to find homes, and then they're all right, what are you doing, Russ? Come on back. Like, that's what it's going to be like.
Yeah, I completely agree, and I think it's going to be interesting. I don't know if they could fit all 3 of those guys. It would really depend on what the numbers are. If they could fit Russell, Butler, and Harris, that might be a little tight. But to me, the advantage to me with the whole Davis piece is that if you sign and trade Russell, you're getting something for Russell. And if you're the Pelicans, suddenly, and I play both sides of this a little bit. If you're the Pelicans, I don't know if you're getting a better player than Russell. I mean, Russell is a better player than Jason Tatum right now, full stop. There's no ifs, ands, or buts on that.
Back. I think he's also got the highest ceiling out of all these young guys the Lakers could be offering too. No, you're right. I
completely agree. I mean, and like to me, if you're the Pelicans, like, if the showcase of your trade package is Jason Tatum, I'm not sure that Jason Tatum is a 5-time All-Star. I'm not sure that he's going to be that level of player. I think Russell, he just made an All-Star team, and he should get better. Now, I don't know that he's going to be a superstar. I think you kind of need to have a superstar to play with him. But I think he can be the second or third best player on a championship team. And so to me, if you're the Nets, I think you kind of play this out. That's my view of it. I mean, we'll talk more as we get into the offseason, but I'm very interested to see where it goes. I definitely agree with you though. I